Any questions from the audience?
I think in the final decision to go for one of those procedures, I mean, having your diabetes under control is certainly an important issue, but it's not the only issue for sure. If you have a patient with reflux age, there are all other parameters that finally gonna, fine-tune a bit the decision between one of those procedures, I think. There's not one unique procedure that just fits for all diabetic patients, so we have to get it out of our mind, and then I may assume that the omega loop and the SARS are going to be probably more potent on that, but they have then the drawbacks a bit. Certainly, if you look to the omega loop for probably having a bit more malnutrition. So this is the decision-making process. I think it's not one unique solution for every diabetic patient.
Yeah, I agree with you. The problem is, I didn't write my hand when after your question, because the patient is BMI of 40 and diabetes for 240 years. There's no way from doing studies, in my opinion. But the patient is 59 BMI and a huge diabetic patient under insulin. I think there is no doubt you can offer this patient Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Because, it's a very heavy patient, but regarding the weight loss, this Roux-en-Y will fail in the future. And you need a more powerful arm. In those select group of patients, I think we need a standard Roux-en-Y duodenal switch or one anastomosis duodenal switch. And I'm going to delete the word malnutrition. We don't do any anastomosis like Scopinaro did. This is the reason I put my first slide. The story, the history, started many years ago. I think, you have to delete out of our mind the word malnutrition, because we have performing hyperabsorptive procedure. And in my opinion, there is no doubt that the sadness is more physiological. I don't know yet the reason, but if you maintain the pass of the pyros, the pass of the food for this way, it's gonna be conceptually better. I don't know the reason. We don't know yet the hormones, the backward interaction, but as we don't know yet, please be as physiological as we can.
So
it's my message.
My point to that is that, with regards to SADS, obviously it's a newer procedure. So when ASMBS has been asking
it's not new. It's a modification of a very old procedure.
I said newer, sorry. So if I may continue, ASMBS did not approve OAGB asking for more 5-year data. So how many 5-year published papers are there on SADS?
I think, there are maybe 3 or 4, but they're not going to be all the data. Do you know any data about, to have a parachute to go down the bridge?
No.
How many trials?
No
one.
I haven't seen any.
It makes sense. It makes sense. The only, it makes sense.
What might also make sense
is the data, the P less than 005 don't do everything.
So what might also make sense is that when you do an anastomosis on the stomach, it is less difficult to perform than performing on first part of the duodenum. Would you agree with that?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's not the same. Your anastomosis to the bowel to the gastric is an ulcer-eugenic operation, conceptually.
But
I don't know after PPI, the quater pylori, vagotomy, anyway, it's not physiological.
I think, Antonio, you're a fantastic surgeon. We all know that. But I think that the question of Dr. Kamal is probably a bit right. A lot of surgeons, even skillful surgeons, are still not so prone to jump behind the duodenum. When the surgeon in the 60s, 70s, they're all used to tackle that problem, for all the ulcer disease. I mean, you're also coming from that period, You have to be a bit more skillful, and I think the duodenal switch, then you do regular bypass on omega loop. I think this is a reality.
So, I think let's compare the two or three standard procedures. So let's come to sleep. So what would you do for a patient of 40 BMI, 1-year duration of diabetes on OHA? I think sleep is a good operation. So what we mean is we have to be selective about, patients. We can have one fit for all. And sleep works well, as we've seen the data. And the other point being, OAGB being a more potent operation, I disagree completely. We have an ongoing study, and we have about 40 patients with right now with the interim results showing absolutely no difference in the percentage excess weight loss as well as impact on diabetic remission. So I personally feel OAGB, RYGB could be comparable. Their bypass procedure is superior in terms of if you have a bad patient, like we talked about. Patient on insulin definitely benefits from a bypass procedure. Duration of diabetes. If you have HbA1c of 10, let's say 11, bypass procedures are better. But I think a lot of patients can end up with just sleeve and diabetes. Earlier thought that diabetes, no, don't do a sleeve. I think it's wrong.
Once again,
And anyway, the results in terms of diabetic reduction are not black and white, you know. I mean, and there's so many other
Various
parameters
definitions
that
we
play a
have been
role.
that is the
using.
most important point, that diabetes is not the only factor worth considering. So what are other factors which are important to consider? Now we know this from American data that Roux-en-Y gastric bypass has twice the 30-day mortality and twice the 30-day reoperation of sleeve gastrectomy. We know from systematic reviews that one anastomosis gastric bypass and sleeve gastrectomy have roughly the same 30-day mortality and 30-day reoperation rates. So I think we should look at everything in totality here. And coming to your answer about sleeve Sandeep, the two RCTs on this topic, they show significant difference in terms of metabolic effectiveness between OAGB and sleeve.
So our study's primary endpoint is diabetes. We're not looking at weight loss comparison. We're randomizing all diabetics into these two. So that's one point. And secondly, I'm glad you brought out about the point in morbidity and mortality between sleeve and bypass. Of course, that's very important. So
I think it's important, you know.
Got down importantly, you know. I mean, it's not like it was 20 years ago. If you looked at those trials, you know, I mean, it's indeed the double what you see after bypass. Also, readmission rate the first 30 days, you know, but, you know, it got really down substantially. But this is a high risk, you know, make two anastomosis. We all know it takes a bit more time. This is evident.
Yeah, you know.
Even more, you know, I mean, that is evident.
Because
yeah.
you know,
RCT
regarding the importance
to know that,
of the sleeve, I agree with the importance of sleeve. Going to be a very nice operation. Studies take advantage of that, you know, to maintain the sleeve. It's going to be very important, you know, and this strategy, you know, of performing a sleeve and wait and see, we can do afterwards in this procedure. And regarding the technical difficulty, I don't agree with you, Bruno. It's going to be for me and for you. But those young guys, they do whipping procedure laparoscopically. They do total gastrectomy and lymphadenectomy.
Antonio, we should ask the audience, how many people here think that CDS and one anastomosis gastric bypass are equally challenging technically? How many people would say that?
Oh, I know, because they don't try it.
So we'll ask the audience. So one person thinks
no, one person.
No. It's a question. It's not a
Now you ask me a
real question.
No, you can.
Just a question. I mean, there's no doubt that sleeve gastrectomy is probably the commonest operation that we perform. And in my practice, increasingly, I see patients that either have achieved some weight loss, but they want to achieve more because they're starting with a higher BMI after sleeve, I think, right? Or there is recidivism of comorbidities. And what is the option that you offer there? So you have the sleeve, the patient want to achieve further weight loss or comorbidities are coming back. And I think starting there is a very good procedure.
Yeah, for sure.
for revision after sleeve.
Yes.
Yes.
After sleeve,
That
weight
that
loss,
point is well taken.
Yeah.
recidivism of comorbidities.
Yes.
Yeah, just
One of the most important slides that I think Antonio was showing to me is that the uncertainty in terms of hypoglycemia after the operation, because you leave your traject and you leave your pylorus, you know, this is very important because we have some patients, you know, who are diabetic, who are much more prone to develop also hypoglycemia. And this is something what you certainly could focus, and I think this is an important issue,
I think
which is in favor
so.
also for the sleeve, which is in favor for the sleeve. But
One point about your starting with the higher BMI. If you have a super obese patient, and we have published this in obesity surgery, comparing OAGB and sleeves. So if you have a higher BMI patient, I think it's preferable to do an OAGB for diabetes or whatever.
No doubt.
So if you have because if you do a sleeve in a 55 BMI patient, you are likely to have a higher failure rate for sure. So that's why we need to be selective about sleeve patients. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I think we're going to wind up because we're a little bit short for time.
The BMI to start with 60, 65.
Exactly. Don't do. Okay. So I will do an OAGB. Yeah, unless patient is technically there's a problem during surgery. It's too difficult, liver is too heavy. I would go in for an OAGB.
We have just published a systematic review comparing OAGB sleeve and Roux-en-Y in super and super obese as well, which proves that OAGB is superior to sleeve and Roux-en-Y in all aspects.
Good. We could talk for ages, but we're gonna wind up now. So we are gonna invite Dimitri back up onto
Nice slide.
stage.